What are you waiting for, sir? Go check out our game. Orale.
Wait, legit? Actually? Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the channel. Hoping to finish part 3 today, unless if something crazy happens that I just need to yap about, but we'll see. Now, of course, I'm sure you guys already have, but I do have to say, please go and support Bumbles. Link top of the description, like always.
Capsule Monsters. Capsule Monsters is a 12-episode miniseries spin-off of the first series of Yu-Gi-Oh!, following Yugi and his friends as they get lost in the world of Capsule Monsters, which is like Yu-Gi-Oh!, except instead of having a hand of cards, you do the cup and ball trick to summon your monsters. Like the Metarex arc of Sonic X, or the ending of Ultimate Muscle, this is a 4Kids original season, commissioned by them to help drum up interest in this new branch of Yu-Gi-Oh! Based on this new game they tried making.
New game, so yeah, okay, that makes sense. If you're trying to sell more merchandise, then creating your own spin-off series of already a popular IP can work. That being said, I've never heard of this, so I don't think this really picked up. That or I'm just living under a rock.
Like Dungeon Dice Monsters, this would also get a physical adaptation that's even rarer than the Dungeon Dice Monsters one is.
Oh, there you go.
And a video game, which, again like Dungeon Dice Monsters, is super difficult to understand now and probably has a fan base that's much bigger than I anticipated. The miniseries itself is a very weird project, taking bits and pieces from shows like Pokemon and Digimon, mixing them together in a way that's pretty far from smooth. Instead of Pokeballs, you get capsules that you shoot out like bullets, even with the cartridge flying out afterwards.
If this was popular nowadays, would it also be a part of the Nintendo lawsuit?
You get the being trapped in a new world from Digimon, and even the merging with monsters out of Digimon Frontiers. You might forget there's Yu-Gi-Oh! In this too! The miniseries was released on DVD as what's called a feature-length film, a 3-hour one that has credits in the middle. If I've sounded any bit more low energy in this one, I'll be straight with you, this is bad. It's really not good. If the movie is a truncated version of the original miniseries, I'd hate to have to watch that one because it's a real slog to watch in its shortened version. Just nothing happens for a really, really long time. It's just hours of characters not really accomplishing much. Getting a mission, finishing it, getting another mission, finishing that. Just on repeat for a long time.
I feel like a lot of shonen shows usually fall into that repetitive cycle. You could say that JoJo's Part 3 sort of did as well, but JoJo's is interesting in other ways, so it kind of made up for that. However, if you remove all that is JoJo's, right? And then you just look at the structure of how Part 3 is, it's literally just the new stand of the day. At the very least, it had an overarching story to it, and a goal to reach, so there was a sense of progression despite the repetitiveness and the usual weirdness. But other series that try to do the same thing don't have that sort of charm, so it usually ends up falling flat.
Every once in a while, they'll throw out an interesting idea, like Joey getting brainwashed, never seen that one before, and Tristan asking, "Why am I even here?" But it gets stuck in a rut for a long time of repeating ideas without anything to spice it up. I was gonna say the fights are cool, but the pacing ruins everything, as I don't think we ever get to see a fight from start to finish without some sort of interruption. It's got mindless fun moments, like Yugi fusing with the Dark Magician and Blue Eyes, but it's not enough to keep my attention. I actually found out while putting the timeline together that the Capsule Monsters miniseries is actually predated by the Capsule Monsters video game, instead of what I thought, which was the other way around. It turns out this is actually the third Capsule Monsters game in a series that spans all the way back to the earliest days of the franchise. I won't delve into too much detail, since we'll be talking about it later, but we're talking the first ever Yu-Gi-Oh! Game. This is its sequel. The reason this was the first one was because Yu-Gi-Oh! Actually had Capsule Monsters as a game before Duel Monsters.
Okay, that's pretty interesting. Just like Bumbles, I thought you made the spin-off series in order to sell the capsule monsters, but no, this one came first. I don't know the exact timeline, but I'm assuming at the time Pokemon and Digimon were like starting to pick up, so we wanted to maybe cash in on that. But I guess even before those series, pocket monsters were already a thing. I'm not sure exactly how popular they were, or I suppose what's important here is how popular were they in Japan.
With it being one of the games played in the Season 0 portion of the story. It's a real shame that everything surrounding capsule monsters is more interesting than the content itself. If you really want to watch it, it's out there. I just don't know why you would want to.
I think the idea is cool. It just needs probably some better execution on it. Spin-off series can certainly stand on their own if they're able to find their own niche. It just needs more sauce. But you know, this is also just Bumble's opinion. I don't know anything about the series.
Dueling Book. For as much fun as physical
Yu-Gi-Oh!
TCGs
Simulator?
can be, that physical aspect makes them extremely difficult for some people to enjoy. Some people don't have stores that run Yu-Gi-Oh! Events near them. Some people don't have nearby friends who can play the game. Heck, some people don't have the money to spend on a luxury like Yu-Gi-Oh! Cards. As such,
Yeah.
online simulators have been an extremely important part of Yu-Gi-Oh! And really all TCG's growth, both official and unofficial. There are dozens and dozens of Yu-Gi-Oh! Simulators out there. From the classic Percy and the various games that used its infrastructure, like the newest version from the original development team, Edo Pro, to the ill-fated dawn of the new era, which lost almost its entire player base after it was hacked and sent out bugged software that compromised users' personal information.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, I've never heard of that one, but rip to anybody using that.
I'd be remiss if I mentioned Dawn and didn't mention my favorite thing ever. Some friends of mine were watching Yu-Gi-Oh! With me. They weren't duelists, just guys who remembered the anime, and at the end of a clip was this extremely bizarre commercial.
What are you waiting for, sir? Go check out our game. Orale.
The one that's
Wait, legit? Actually? That looks like a skit.
started it all, though, after Virtual Desktop, but who's counting, is Dueling Network. Dueling Network was a passion project by Chris Salvarani, a programmer who, in between college classes, thought about how cool it would be to have an online dueling simulator that stuck as
Would be
close to
cool.
real life as possible. In May of 2011, Chris and a team of like-minded Yu-Gi-Oh! Programmers were able to create Dueling Network, an entirely in-browser Yu-Gi-Oh! Simulator that delivered Yu-Gi-Oh! As Chris intended. Unlike stuff like the video games, which were largely automated, Dueling Network was all manual. That meant that if you wanted to play a deck, you had to understand exactly what it did, how it worked, what lines were possible, and what locks it would put you under all on your own.
I suppose that's fair, especially for like just a project that you're doing for fun. And I suppose in a way, if you're trying to simulate playing actual Yu-Gi-Oh!, then your opponent also has to kind of be there and be aware of what's going on and tell you if you're doing something wrong or if you're trying to pull something sneaky. It's like a physical match, so it's not too hard though. Like, if you play a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh! And you're running up against the usual, like, meta decks or the more common ones, then you probably know what they can or can't do. It's only when you run into the weirdly worded ones that you don't see very often where there's going to be a bit of an issue here, I'm sure.
This arguably raised the collective player IQ of the Yu-Gi-Oh! Community, as now more players than ever had to understand the game to a level they never had to before. The game came with a lot of bonus features, like friend lists, lobby creation, customization. In no time at all, this game took over the Yu-Gi-Oh! Online scene as people were flooding the site. Thousands of duelists all online at the same time. This was a massive boon for people who wanted to play a deck and test it before investing in the paper product. Or,
Oh yeah, that's also a really good point. See how it feels like to play before you go out there and invest. into a whole lot of different packs, so hopefully maybe pull it. Or ideally just buy it in a set. That's something I wish fighting games had, where when they release a new DLC character in more modern games, they'll have like a video showcasing what the character does and all that, but it's not the same as actually getting to play said character. At least let me try and demo the character in training mode or in offline mode. Which actually, now I think about it, I think 2XKO does that. And I might be crazy, but I think Street Fighter 6 also has like a demo mode. So hopefully that becomes more prevalent.
Content creators who wanted to make Yu-Gi-Oh videos, and now could, with the entire card pool and a huge pool of players to play against. If you have a Yu-Gi tuber you watch, chances are they have a lot of their backlog thanks to Dueling Network. Though this entry is called Dueling Book, right? Well, that's because of an issue that arose in 2016, when not Konami, but Nihon Ad Systems finally sent a cease and desist. Nihon is the company who handles the copyright to the Yu-Gi-Oh anime and a lot of other facets to the franchise. It's...
Oh my god. What? It's a place for fans of your series to go and play the game against each other. I can never understand when companies like this, beyond, I don't want to specify, but it's usually Japanese companies, because copyright law over there works differently, and I'm not a lawyer, so I don't know. But I don't understand why they don't understand that people playing the game or having a place to play it and enjoy it is actually going to help get your product out there, maybe make more people want to get into your game, buy more cards, because now they know which ones they want to buy instead of, I'm not going to buy any because I don't know whether I'd enjoy it or not. I don't know what the thought process is. I can rant about this all day long because I also have similar frustrations with like one of my favorite series, Steins Gate. I can't stream any of the visual novels for Steins Gate or any of the science adventure series because Mages owns the rights to it. And Mages will come for you. They will destroy you.
A confusing topic. They wanted to take Dueling Network down, which they nearly succeeded at. At first, Network tried to comply by removing all of the card artwork, which almost worked, except for how it didn't, and got the site taken down officially. Dueling Network would stay down for 6 months until Dueling Book rose up to take its place. A site with all the same functionality and developers as the old one, with the benefit of some much-needed improvements. However, like I said, if you take away people's ability to play a card game, they're just gonna move on to a new card game. The site's still up today, but it's used far less. Some YouTube series like Progression still use it, thanks to its ease of use and card pool, but the general public shifted over to Edo, Omega, and eventually Master Duel once those options were available. It may be sad to know that the site is past its prime, but even still, it's worth keeping around as a monument to what the community once congregated around.
It is, and I do agree. And that's the thing, right? Instead of losing your reputation over sending a cease and desist towards people who are trying to make a passion project of a product that you have not provided or a service that you haven't provided, why don't you take that idea and say, wait a minute, people want this sort of thing. I think we can make a lot of money if we made that thing, but better. But also, on the flip side, looking at how companies are run, they just kind of promote that sort of behavior. It's just, it is what it is. Gotta look at all them short-term gains so they can lose all your fan base.
Magic cards. Yu-Gi-Oh's 3 main card types have been around since the very first set of the game. You have the monsters, your damage dealers who battle your opponent's army, your trap cards to throw a wrench in their efforts, and the spell cards to assist your monsters in the fight. Except at the very start of the game's life, things were different. We had monsters and traps, but instead of spells, we had magic cards. Functionally, they're the exact same as spell cards, just with a different name, but it was still worth noting this card super type used to be called something completely different. From the very first set released in America, all the way up until October 10th, 2003, they were called Magic Cards. When, on that date, the verbiage switched to spell cards and never looked back. Why was the change made? Well,
Magic
let's
the
put our
Gathering?
thinking caps on. What confusion could possibly arise from having your TCG have the word magic featured so prominently? Let me ask this gathering what magic could possibly mean. Magic the Gathering is the granddaddy of all TCGs, and has remained a constant fixture of the top 5 best-selling TCGs in America ever since its release. We're still waiting to see how many secret layers it will take to kill it, but it's not going anywhere, and everybody took inspiration from it. It's almost impossible to find a TCG not inspired by Magic the Gathering. Looking at any of them, and if you see one that has a resource system or something like lands, that's because of Magic. And it's not unbelievable to think Yu-Gi-Oh! Took something too. With Magic cards playing such a prominent part in Yu-Gi-Oh!, it's assumed that Wizards of the Coast, the company who owns Magic the Gathering, started taking notice. This only intensified with the release of the core set Magic Rulers in September of 2002, creating further connections between Magic cards and Magic's cards.
Magic cards.
Starting from Magician's Force onwards, Magic got swapped to Spell, and the rest is history. Now, I tell this story about WotC coming after Konami like it's ever been confirmed, when really the two companies have never commented on the naming of Magic cards. WotC never publicly voiced a problem with the Magic cards, and Konami never said anything about having to change it.
Regardless, I think it's a smart idea to just change it because we don't want any potential issues in the future. Plus, just marketing too. Because if you name your thing something kind of confusing to people that they might think it's a different product, that's not going to be a good idea. Or like the card company in a previous part of this video that named themselves like sports card or something like that. And it was the product that they sold, but they also named the company after that. So when you try to look for them, it's impossible to find them. The name just doesn't really stick in people's minds.
Now, they won't tell us anything, like who even makes the cards, so it's not like we can rely on them for anything, but still, if anything, I'd guess it was a proactive change on Konami's part.
Yeah,
imagine a kid asking their parent for the new pack. Oh, I want Magic Ruler! They get to the store and they kind of just remember the kid wanted Magic cards. Oh, hey. Then they pick up a Magic booster and another child is lost. I'd be doubly willing to bet that that's the case because this seems to be an entirely American problem. Thanks to the Japanese side of the equation, we can tell that this is a one-sided issue. In Japan, where Yu-Gi-Oh! Is unquestionably bigger by a magnitude of 10, they never stopped calling their cards Magic cards. In fact, the two never had an issue due to Yu-Gi-Oh! Using the Japanese word for magic, Maho, to refer to spell cards, while Magic uses the translation for the English word Majiku.
Magic the Gathering Arena Mobile.
Oh, okay. I see. That makes sense.
This makes me even more sure about the confusion problem, since Magic's firmer establishment in America would mean that if push came to shove, Yu-Gi-Oh! Would be the first to budge. A byproduct of the Magic to Spell change is an interesting oversight that happens to occur in games like World Championship 2004. To update the spell cards who have only ever been printed as Magic cards, like, let's say, Gravekeeper's Servant, Konami will go in and automatically replace every instance of magic found in cards printed before Magician's Force with Spell. This works great for mass changes, but as anybody with a shotgun will say, widespread does often lose the finer details.
Oh, wait.
When using Yugi's ace monster, Dark Magician, everything is fine.
Spell Magician?
But cards who refer to Dark Magician in their effect text,
Dark
like
Spellion?
Dark Sage and Dark Magician Girl, would refer to him as Dark Spellion.
Yes! Yeah! This is great. The intern just hit like Control F and change everything. That is spell into magic. No, magic into spell the other way around. Oh man, that's awesome.
Like going Control F in a document, they found every instance
Exactly.
of magic and replaced it with spell. They managed to fix the monsters with magician in their name and switch them back, but forgot to check
Not the
the effect
description.
text of cards like this and left it as Spellian. A similar thing would happen years and years later, as recently as Master Duel, where you would find a deck challenge that tasked you with using a dark Spellian deck. While Yu-Gi-Oh's never gone for a full-on joke set like Magic will do, if they ever do, I swear there'd better be an official Dark Spellian in there.
I hope so.
Air Neos and the missing Master Duel cards.
What?
Part of the appeal of Yu-Gi-Oh's massive card pool is that you're allowed to use whatever cards you want in whatever deck you're playing. This is how we get techs like Mushroom Man number 2 in Kashtira, or Marionette Might being legit tech against Unchained. With so many cards, though.
Wait, why is it tech against Unchained? Target one fiend or zombie your opponent controls, take control of that target until the end phase. I guess Unchained are fiend monsters.
Might being legit tech against Unchained. With so many cards, though, it's also super likely that a few will slip through the cracks. You're not going to be able to notice if a few of them just stop existing. Master Duel is almost the perfect simulator, but it's missing a not insignificant pool of cards that mean it can never claim to have every card ever made. First up is the biggest pool, that all have the same explanation, those being cards with artwork by Kazuki Takahashi. Whether it's a rights dispute or some sort of legal problem, cards with artwork by Kazuki Takahashi are not allowed in Master Duel. Whether it's
Really?
alt art or a card's only artwork, cards like Red Eye's Alternative Black Dragon, Blue Eye's Alternative Ultimate Dragon, Palladium Oracle Mana, Ankh Karibo, Neo Kaiser Glider, and Shiba Warrior Taro have and never will be released. While most of these haven't had much effect in the long run, they're first and foremost for collecting and not gameplay purposes, one of them actually did really hurt a deck in Master Duel's infancy. Megalith was a deck that saw on-again, off-again meta play during its lifespan, but was considered rogue in the real game thanks to a card called Magician of Black Chaos Max.
I have never seen this card before. Well, that's probably because we're about to say that this isn't in the game.
It had the ability to stop all monster effects for an entire turn when it was ritual summoned. And Megalith had access to a quick play ritual summon that summoned Max on the opponent's turn, forcing them to pass after maybe setting a card or two. This was the Megalith strategy.
That's pretty good.
And with the lack of Max in Master Duel, thanks to the widespread Takahashi purge, Megalith never saw the play it did outside of the NR format. Oh no, another summoning mechanic doesn't get a dumbass turn skip. I'm ballin' over here.
You know, that is fair. There are plenty of other decks that could do that, and worse. It is just kind of a shame, though, that Megalith doesn't get its full potential in Master Duel. But I do recall playing them, as Bumble said here, in the NNR event, whenever it was on, because I think it was pretty meta for that particular event.
Another card that was left out, kinda because of Takahashi, was Muyan Curry. Yeah, check it out right now. Muyan Curry isn't in Master Duel. Why? Because they were 1-0 away from a lawsuit. Moyan Curry is an actual curry chain in Japan that Takahashi loved going to, and so made this card in tribute to his favorite curry shop. The curry shop loved the tribute, and even gives special treatment to people who bring the card to the store.
Really?
But Konami, probably fearing a lawsuit if they ever got sick of the joke, didn't put it in Master Duel. It isn't Duel Links, so I'm probably talking out of my butt here. Then there are the cards.
I guess fair. Once again, a similar situation to the Magic into spell cards, where we're proactively changing something in case something in the future changes. You never know.
Cards that are left out of Master Duel because they'd be a pain in the ass to program. These include Bait Doll and forcing the opponent to activate spells and traps they don't want to, Convulsion of Nature and flipping the deck upside down, Pole Position for pretty much only creating infinite loops, the usual suspects.
Okay, that's fair. Cards that have like a very specific mechanic to them that'll make it so you have to change the programming for how the game is played just for that one singular card, I think we can leave them out. And I'm not sure if any of them are used in any sort of meta strategy. I would assume no. I'm gonna assume they're mostly used in annoying strategies.
Spellbinding Circle isn't in the game. I don't understand this one. Spellbinding Circle has nothing wrong with it like the other ones do. It's an original design, it's not drawn by Takahashi, its effect is completely comprehensible. I really have no idea. If I had gotten the lead out and done this a few weeks ago, I'd be just as in the dark about this next card, but we now have a much clearer image. This is the story of Yu-Gi-Oh's most infamous lost card, Elemental Hero Air Neos. Air Neos is a member of the Neospatian wing of the hero mass, fusing Air Hummingbird and Neos like Neos could do with all of the Neospatians. He was released in the set Strike of Neos, even being the cover card for the set, available in Ultimate and Ultra Rare. Aside from one more reprinting in Japan in Master Collection Volume 3, this card would never be seen or heard from again. It has been wiped from history completely. Every other Neos fusion would get reprinted at some point, even the expensive ones like Rainbow Neos. But Air Neos would never get one. I would know because I experienced this firsthand. When I went to college, I was depressed. Getting the full college experience and all, I decided to drop by my local GameStop since they had Yu-Gi-Oh cards for sale. I bought one pack of Savage Strike and opened it, only to get the super rare Neos Fusion. I don't know what it was. Maybe it was my fragile emotions at the time. Maybe it was the nostalgia I had for these monsters specifically. But Neos Fusion is the card that brought me back to Yu-Gi-Oh! I started buying the Neospatians and Neos cards off TCG Player with a vanilla prepaid card because I still didn't have a debit card in college. And when I went to go get the Air Neos, I just about fell out of my chair. Stuff like the Hero Mat, which this script is being typed on, featured all of the Neos fusions except for two, Glow Neos and Air Neos. Glow Neos I get, because it stinks. But why was Air Neos excluded?
Yeah, why do they hate him so
next
much?
Got support in Power of the Elements, the card Instant Contact was revealed, which was based on this specific frame from the third opening of GX, Teardrop. It featured all of the Neos fusions in super cool artwork, except for Air Neos.
Wait, what? They literally erased him from the background. What are you talking about? Where's Air Neos?
Which was shifted down to only leave just about his wings visible in the artwork, even drawn in the wrong color. What in the hell was wrong with Air Neos? For years, we just had speculation to go off of.
Got Mike Wazowski.
Maybe it was a rights dispute? Maybe it had something to do with the Italian airline called Neos? Some people said it was because Kazuki Takahashi designed this card and wanted to keep it close to his chest. While it is true he designed a few of the hero monsters, this dude didn't even keep a drawing of his real-life dog as close to him. Why would he pick Air Neos over his dog? We would be left without answers for the decade following its release, until 2025, when the story finally broke. The Zodiac Duelist Facebook page, specifically the user Yu-Gi-Oh! Wind, found court documents that explained everything. Konami had been sued by Beyond Comics, a company owned by Greg Weik, and in the lawsuit, alleged that Air Neos was a copy of his character, Ravadactyl. Greg was no fly-by-night grifter who drew this guy on a cocktail napkin to make a few bucks. No, he's an industry vet working on books like Spawn. And Ravadactyl is his own personal creation that he's been angling to make a thing for some time now. In order to do that, he put up a presence at places like Comic-Cons in San Diego, which were events also attended by Konami, with Yu-Gi-Oh! Specifically. He cited interviews where Kazuki Takahashi claimed that the hero monsters were based on American comic books, and filed a cease and desist to Konami asking them to stop using Air Neos. Konami said nothing because they ignored it, so Beyond Comics took Konami to court. As Japanese companies are usually extremely hesitant to get into a legal battle, Konami decided to settle out of court for an unspecified settlement, though one of the assumed clauses was a complete discontinuation of Air Neos in anything ever. Do I have an opinion on this case? Obviously, of course I have my opinions. But a lot of people want to opt for the easy choice of saying there was one right party and one wrong party, black hat, white hat style. I think it's a lot more nuanced than that. Is Ravadactyl the most original character of all time, and
I wouldn't
does
say
it have
so.
the reach that Greg wants it to? I'd say no. Does he still have the right to argue that this character lifts too heavily from his own? Also yes. Whatever opinion I do have, all it's gonna do is either affirm or challenge your own, so it's not like it really matters. All I ask is that if anybody feels like going on a witch hunt to attack Greg for ruining GX card collecting,
Oh, hell no, don't do that. Regardless of the subject matter, don't do that. If it's something you don't enjoy and something you don't agree with, there is literally no reason to interact with it. And that's usually the best thing to do. A lot of stuff like this you can see happen with content creators, whatever drama happens, and then people start going in to attack them. It's just such weird behavior. Just don't watch them. Like, if everybody ignores them, then what are the content creators gonna do? They're not gonna be making any money off of any ad revenue, so just leave it be. But yeah, in this instance, when it comes to artists, the same thing, same basis. If you don't like it, don't engage with it. And I do have to agree with Bumbles here. It's tough to say. You have the right to argue with it, but I also don't think the character itself was that iconic. I've never heard of that character before, not gonna lie. And it's a shame that because of that, Air Neos isn't actually there with all the other people, despite likely being a very iconic character. I mean, he shows up with the OP and shows up in a couple of episodes, I'd assume. But it is what it is.
he's among the people who wants Air Neos back. The real winners here, though, are the community finally having an answer for why Air Neos was unpersoned. And it's funny to think that Ravadactyl has existed for years, and nobody ever drew the connection between the two until the court documents were found. I guess that market confusion wasn't going to be a problem after all. Cards for real-life events. With how popular Yu-Gi-Oh! Is in Japan, it's not surprising to find out that it's been used for plenty of promotions for new products or events. A common crossover you'll see is Yu-Gi-Oh! Co-promoting with different food companies, like in 2023 when they released promotional cards only available at the chain restaurant Coco's. This was a line of alternate artwork for the 3 ace monsters of both the original 3 Yu-Gi-Oh! Series and Rush Duel, with Dark Magician, Neos, and Stardust getting the treatment, alongside Seven Roads Magician, Dragios, and Prima Guitarna. The promotion was so popular, it would be replicated several more times, expanding both to the later 3 original series and Go Rush once that started airing. In the second wave, they even began printing cards exclusive to the restaurant, like Steam Knight Hamburg, Steam Knight Bull Launcher, and Kokosh, the Spellcaster of Happiness.
I would assume these aren't tournament legal, but if you're a collector, then it gives you a reason to go there. Like, I have no issues with this if it's alternative art. It is still kind of a shame, though, that, if you're not over there, then how are you gonna get your hands on these? But maybe that's also because I just don't understand collectors in general. I just don't have the disposable income to even think about doing anything quite like that. And even if I did, I probably wouldn't. It's an interesting hobby that I respect. Do what you will with your money.
God help us if Steam Night ever becomes meta and we have to start binge eating at Coco restaurants.
Imagine.
Sticking to the original cards and food,
What in the world is
potato
that?
chip brand Calbee ran a promotion in Japan where
Oh
buying
my
a bag
God,
of chips
some
would earn you
nightmare
a free
fuel.
pack. In the pack would be either some nostalgia cards from the anime, or if you were lucky, one of 3 promo cards exclusive to the chip bag. You could get either Potato and Chips, Soul Unseal, or Farm Delivery. These were 3 cards following
some
a
cute
pair
art.
of couch potatoes eating chips until eventually being sent off to a Calbee's factory. What's funny is that unlike the Steam Night cards, they included a
And it's
spell
kinda
and
dark.
trap, meaning that these are mechanically unique cards that were only obtainable in potato chip bags. I'm assembling the strongest deck of all time, and I'm only going to 7-Eleven to do it. Speaking of which, 7-Eleven also did a promotion featuring Yu-Gi-Oh! Card packs, with these packs fetching you an exclusive alt art of a few nostalgia monsters based on their appearance from the Duel Arena online game. It's not too noteworthy, outside of chibi artwork that was given to dozens of monsters,
Looks
from
cute.
Insect Queen to Bujinji Susano to Apakli Fort Towers. This artwork has been beloved for years, so
Yeah,
seeing
I can
Konami
see why.
release it officially on cards is cool.
And imagine like getting a plushie of these. Honestly, if you had the chance to get the alternative art for stuff like this, I would. If it didn't mean, flying all the way over to Japan to buy something from a very specific store.
Especially since we'll be getting it soon enough. Another slightly less slushy exhibit that had Yu-Gi-Oh! Cards was the 2023 Dinosaur Expo in Tokyo, where with the purchase of 2,000 yen or more in merchandise, you could get a 2-card pack featuring a Rush Duel and standard Yu-Gi-Oh! Version of the dinosaur monster Mega Plunder. Another functionally unique card
Dinosaur.
is the TV Tokyo promo card, Na Na Na. This features the mascot of TV Tokyo, Na Na Na, and a big old picture of Yuma on the front, because f*** what I said about them not putting characters on cards.
I was gonna say. They never put the anime characters on the card artwork. Oh, there you go. I mean, it's like a promotional card for a specific thing. It's part of their branding. I can see why.
Art. You could win this card by actually going to the TV Tokyo Festival and playing games. Either speed matching or a shooting gallery game could net you worse Rush Recklessly. On the TCG side of things, there's very few examples of anything like this happening, with maybe the closest one being the McDonald's promo cards. But in one example too silly not to include, we have the Adidas Dark Magician. This
What?
was a special copy of Dark Magician that was exclusive to when you bought the Adidas crossover Yu-Gi-Oh! Sneakers. And where a stamp like the 25th anniversary stamp would have gone, instead there's the Adidas logo. The pinnacle of the real-life event cards, though, does come from America with the 2007 World Championship exclusive Get Your Game On. This was a card distributed at the event with the effect to double the attack of all heroes and Neospatians you control. But only if you were present at the 2007 Yu-Gi-Oh! Trading Card Game World Championship. This card has so many weird little quirks about it. It has the text in the lower corner specifying that it's illegal.
Yeah.
Really bland and weird artwork with just the logo for the event trapped in Silent Hill. It's got a thank you message on the back, the only time-sensitive effect in the game. A very quirky card that commands a very serious price tag.
Oh, damn. How big is this price tag? Yeah, this is clearly meant to just be a I was there sort of card that you show off in like a little glass case and talk about whenever people come over if they're also into Yu-Gi-Oh! And even if they're not, just tell them all about it until you make weird looks at you.
Around $300 on the low end for one of these things. And
Damn.
if you get it, unless you were present at the championship, you can't even use it.
If I got it, I was there, I'd 100% sell it. Although I'd probably save it. Maybe the price will go up a little bit.
3 Dino Smashers Fury. Structure decks in Yu-Gi-Oh! Went through an incredible change as the game progressed. At the beginning of the game's lifespan, structure decks might have one good card and some decent reprints, but once we get into the cycle that we're in now, it became abysmal. In the beginning, structure decks were all themed around different types and attributes. You'd have the dragon structure deck, the zombie structure deck,
makes sense.
the fire structure deck, the water structure deck, the winged beast structure deck, the rock structure deck. All would come out, all would contain total garbage. Some of these structure decks, like the winged beast and rock ones, are infamous for being some of the worst value you could get in terms of product.
Well, that's
no
unfortunate.
good cards, and the ones that debuted were worthless. The Rock Structure deck is where one of the worst cards of all time, Canyon, debuted. This card deals
A rock type monster in defense position is attacked, double any battle damage to the controller of the attacking monster. Huh? Oh. Any sort of effect like this that is reliant on your opponent being stupid is that sucks. It sucks. It really sucks. Unless if there's a card that forces your opponents to attack into your rock monsters that are in defense position, then maybe. But still, like, how much more defense is your monster going to have over their attack monsters? Usually, at least from what I played of Yu-Gi-Oh!, the defense is going to be that much higher, so the damage is probably like, what, 500? 1,000? Double that's only 2,000? Light points don't even really matter, so what? Yeah, I see why this is a horrible card. The card art also isn't very inspiring.
double damage taken when a monster attacks into a defense position monster. You know what's gonna stop anybody from attacking your face downs? If you tell them they'll take double damage!
Right?
There would be some hits in the time in between, like the Caius Structure deck, Zombie World, and Machina Madness.
Zombie World's pretty
then
good.
You would have flops like the Geargia Structure deck, which took a tiered meta strategy, gave it a Structure deck's worth of support, and then added 0 good new cards. It wasn't until the Pendulum era that Structure decks finally got a change in philosophy, now being more geared towards meta play instead of casual play, and introducing tournament-ready decks playable out of the box. This started with a remake of the Monarch Structure deck that put the deck back on the map.
Monarchs are cool.
After that, remakes of Structure decks would begin shaking up the meta. Felgrand and the Kaiba structures would get remakes, both of which impacted the game for years to come, and following those would be the Ancient Gear Structure deck, but then after that was perhaps the best Structure deck Yu-Gi-Oh's ever released.
Oh, damn. I guess Ancient Gears in general aren't the greatest thing out there, but it is really impressive to see somebody playing Ancient Gear in Master Duel and succeeding. I have a lot of respect for it.
A remake of the classic Dinosaur Structure deck, Dino Smasher's Fury. This deck took a decade of strong but disparate dinosaur support and connected it all with 5 new cards, and an additional support card in the following pack. Petite Pteranodon opened a massive pool of dinosaurs to summon
Yeah, pop the baby. You know, now I'm thinking about it. With how much I love dinosaurs, I have no idea why I never actually played dinos. This is so sad. The closest I've gotten was playing Dinomorphia, which maybe kind of counts, but it wasn't really a dinosaur deck like this.
From deck off the simple destruction of the baby. Soul-Eating Oviraptor was a Stratos for the entire dinosaur type, as well as a super efficient baby popper. Miscellaneousaurus was a bridge into any dino you wanted if you had dinos to banish, as well as protecting your entire field at the cost of a discard. Lost World was a field spell that could pop baby dinos from the deck to protect the ones you had on field, stop targeting, and sap your opponent's attack points. The main event, though, was Ultimate Conductor Tyranno.
Yeah.
Easy to summon, massive attacker who could flip everything your opponent had face down, and then destroy it, dealing a flat 1,000 damage each time it did. UCT has gone down as one of the most iconic boss monsters of all time, and as soon as dinos become relevant again, people have to play around him. The power of Dino Smasher's Fury was so evident to the player base that when new players asked how to get into the game, the most common answer was to simply tell them, buy 3 Dino Smasher's Fury. That's all they needed.
That's why.
The deck had enough staples, the monsters in it were so good, add in Misk, who was the Larry Come Lately in the following pack, and you'd have a deck that could hang with the best of them. In fact, Dino was so good that it hung on for years. We're talking well into COVID during some of the worst formats Yu-Gi-Oh's ever had. People just decided to see if Dino was still good, and it was!
And it was!
It was really good! It was so good, Konami lent into it and printed a new scrap card, who was a dino who supported dinos more than it supported scraps. Dino Smasher's Fury was so influential that it's kind of broken Dino support ever since. We haven't gotten a dedicated Dino deck since Dino Wrestlers, and because of that, Dinosaur the type has essentially become Dinosaur the archetype, with new dinosaur support supporting the game plan of popping babies to summon out massive dinos. This is reflected in one of the worst archetypes of all time, Transcendosaurus. This deck does
What
nothing.
now? It does nothing, no! Transcendosaurus? That sounds pretty cool. I've never heard of this archetype, however. I assume it's probably a newer one.
Because this deck is not intended to do anything. This is not a deck. This deck is simply support for the wider Dino strategy with nothing it can do on its own. 3 Dino Smasher's Fury was so influential that this one meme spawned other memes off of it. Like asking, "Have you read Misk?" in response to people being confounded by its effect to protect monsters. The funniest part of Miscellaneousaurus's effect to protect all your monsters is that if you discard Miscellaneousaurus, your field is immune from Nibiru. Guys, the dinosaurs found out how to fight back against the meteor. Pop the Baby is a joke with layers. Initially just a funny way to refer to destroying Baby Cerosaurus and Petite Pteranodon to gain their effects, except those jokes got used so much that people eventually used Pop the Baby ironically, to bluntly joke about how unfunny the joke was. I don't think we'll ever see a structure deck again that has as much value, staying power, and influence as Dino Smasher's Fury.
Can only
Unless
hope.
they remake the Geargia one and actually unprint the good Geargias. DDD Spreadsheet.
Oh yeah. DDD is a deck that I looked at and was like, you know what? I don't think I'm gonna try to spend the time to learn how to play this one. This one is big brain time.
Yu-Gi-Oh! Is complicated, but does it get Excel complicated? One of the
Yeah.
biggest knocks against Yu-Gi-Oh! Is that it's hard to learn. Any deck can be a challenge to pilot when it comes to keeping track of what would be best in the moment to beat your opponent.
For sure.
Accounting for what they have, what they could have, if they have graveyard effects or something in hand, what you have and how you can use it, what locks you've put yourself under, what locks your opponents put you under, what you can still do if you get negated.
It's all
A lot
about
of it
game
is
knowledge.
hard, and some decks try to make it even harder. Difficult decks in Yu-Gi-Oh! Put the skill that the player accrues to a new level, requiring a higher mental tax than anything else and pushing you to your limits.
I think having these kind of decks, though, is a good thing for the game. Because it's there for people who feel like, you know, I've mastered everything and playing my deck over and over again, and it's not very exciting. I want something to kind of stretch the limits, to really go further beyond. I would compare this to something like a puppet character in a fighting game, where instead of just playing one character at a time, now you're playing 2 at the same time. And depending on the game, you may either be like the most meta option, playing as a puppet character, or probably at the lowest end of the tier as a puppet character, but it's stimulating for you, so it just kind of works out. And like, who cares where you are on the tier list, as long as you're having fun playing the game, right?
And no deck has ever done that, like Different Dimension Demons, or DDDs. Used by Reiji in the Arc 5 manga and anime, DDDs are a mishmashing of different mythical beasts, demons, and kinda just guys in armor, with 2 different themes. The pendulum monsters are based on famous philosophers, while the larger bosses are named after historical heroes and office positions. Okay, this is
What?
only gonna make sense in Japanese, but a bunch of these monsters use their kanji to double as puns for office positions. So Doom King Armageddon uses the kanjis Shi, E, and O. Shi-E-O. CEO.
CEO,
Doom
yeah.
King is the CEO. It doesn't matter to the topic, but it matters to me. Without it, I have nothing. Upon its initial release, DDD was clearly on a different level to what Yu-Gi-Oh! Was used to. It could use all three of the major summoning mechanics and pendulum summoning, pivoting between
Does
the
everything.
different low levels to make whatever monster you needed for the current situation. The trade-off to this versatility is that the deck is hard as f*** to play. Knowing what's possible with whatever combination of DDs and Dark Gates you get is integral to know how to carry out a turn. And knowing what to do if you're stopped from your original plan is just as important. DDD had the capability to do all of this. It was up to the player who had to figure out how to make it all work. It was so hard, in fact, it necessitated the creation of a resource, the DDD spreadsheet. What this is a spreadsheet in Excel that will give you every possible combination of starter, extender, and spell card you could use, what they could be used for, what their best use was, and what to do if they were negated. This spreadsheet is held up as one of the key reasons DDD was so difficult. Look at how much information you need to play the deck. It's one of the hardest decks in Yu-Gi-Oh! You need to be a genius to play the best deck.
Do you really, though? Going back to fighting games, there are certain characters that do have these type of spreadsheets when it comes to whatever starter that you're able to get off and where you currently are in terms of the stage. But I think even professional players don't go for the most optimal routing when it comes to things like that. They'll go for the thing that they know works and that they 100% won't drop during a tournament. And I guess oftentimes when it comes to spreadsheets like this, it can make a much more simple topic. Like if you just play the deck, you'll understand how it works. It feels like it's way more complicated than it has to be. Still though, I think it's undeniable that DDD requires a lot more thinking than some other decks, but that's also due to its versatility, which I wouldn't say is a bad thing.
This sorta runs against the reality, though, that while the hypothetical version of DDD would be good, and it certainly was in Japan, where all of its cards were released in the right order, that never happened in America, thanks to the release order leaving out key cards at the worst possible times.
Why?
DDD got to be at full power for about a week before Zodiac packed and smoked it like high school
shit.
weed. It gives DDD this strange energy of a deck that could have been good, but now looks kind of silly with all of this information and so few results. In fact, I'd say that more recent DDD support kind of hurts the deck's big brain perception. Gilgamesh, a DDD Link monster that sets 2 pendulum scales from deck immediately, is so strong you want to get to him as fast as possible.
So just route to Gilgamesh.
Has restructured itself around playing to Gilgamesh as quickly as it can. It gives a deck that at one point was vaunted for its versatility a choke point so tight that it leaves you with nothing if it's stopped. At time of writing...
So yeah, like what if somebody imperms Gilgamesh? Well, what do you do then? RIP, I guess.
New DDD support was just announced, so I'd be happy to be proven wrong, but the legend of the DDD spreadsheet has overshadowed the reality that the deck never converted into any real success. We'll see. At time of writing, there's a huge community discussion on spreadsheets, specifically paid spreadsheets, and how is it a scam if pro players intentionally withhold or put out bum information so they can retain an edge over people who try to follow the spreadsheet? Should the spreadsheet be the be-all end-all, or should it be a cheat sheet to learn the deck?
Okay, hold up a minute. People are selling these spreadsheets on how to play the deck? I think that's dumb. I think that's ludicrous. I think if they had designed a archetype so difficult to even understand how to play, it's probably not a good design. I'm almost certain if you read through the cards and then you tried playing them, you'd probably figure out how to do it. And at least by now, there should be like a ton of YouTube videos out there of people just playing DDD, so you can just watch what routing they do. Yeah, that's crazy to me, man. I wonder if that was a regular thing back in the day. I never experienced anything quite like that, of selling spreadsheets.
Basics and then learn more on your own. All I know is that if it means I have to sign up for Microsoft Office, I'm not using it. The Joey 9. You have no idea how many cards you don't know about. Yu-Gi-Oh! In the US and other regions started almost 3 years after the game began in Japan, meaning there was 3 years worth of cards left over that needed to be imported to America.
I see. I get what Bumbles is trying to say here, but joke's on you, Bumbles. I barely know any cards, so I do know that I don't know anything.
What cards were being released between the original Series 1 booster pack and America's Legend of the Blue Eyes White Dragon? Just a bunch of normal monsters. You might think that early Yu-Gi-Oh! Packs contain nothing but normals, and they do, but as it turns out, the 5 effect monsters we got in Legend of the Blue Eyes White Dragon are spoiling us compared to what they got in the OCG. It took until Volume 3 for the first monster that did something, and it would take a further 2 volumes before we'd get ones that didn't need to be flipped up. In America, by contrast, we'd have a decent amount of monsters by the second set, Metal Raiders. As a result, the TCG felt it was unnecessary to print every single level 3 vanilla with 600 attack and defense, leaving nearly 100 normal monsters without ever getting an official English translation. Some of these monsters would find their way to America whenever nostalgia sets were reprinted or classic card bundles were released, but their best chance to get printed in English was through the legendary collection boxes. These were big boxes of packs and pre-constructed decks that were themed around arcs and duelists, and would come with stuff like a hard playmat, dice, counters, coins, and other stuff. These were, and still are, great gifts for people who are getting into the game, or Yugi boomers who just want to look at a picture of Yugi and nod in approval. Where we find our subject for this topic, though, is in the 4th Legendary Collection, Joey's World, released in 2013. The box was themed after Joey Wheeler and included a bunch of cards iconic to him, like Red Eye's Black Dragon, Jinzo, and Guilford the Lightning. What it included as well were packs with a 200-card-deep card pool, for Joey and duelists he famously dueled, like Rex, Mai, Merrick, and Bandit Keith. Seeing as these packs were mostly for nostalgia, they were filled with a lot of normal monsters and classic cards who had seen their best days, or never had best days at all. This would include porting in classic cards who had never seen a printing before, like some of Rex's dinosaurs, Bones' zombies, Keith's machines, and a set of 8 normal monsters that Joey used throughout the original manga and anime. These seemed like normal reprints, but then you read the flavor text. This stone critter's got rock-hard foy. That gives him some really good defense. This big old guy with a big old eye shoots a nasty ray beam right at ya. Feel the strength of this sword-swinging samurai from the Far East. These 8, plus 1 more, would make up the Joey 9, a series of normal monsters who had their flavor text written by Joey Wheeler himself.
That's really fun.
See, Katsuyori Jonoichi, as Joey is known in Japan, speaks in a very rough, informal dialect, not using honorific titles and using informal versions of words that give him a rude accent. This is where localization actually matters, because translating that manner of speech to English comes off as something like a gruff New Yorker, which led to him getting a Brooklyn accent, one of the most famous dub changes 4Kids ever made. While it didn't quite work with Sanji in the One Piece dub, this would go on to become one of their most beloved changes. Brooklyn Joey is a change almost nobody draws real issue with, mostly just down to people saying it's weird that he's the only one with an accent, and he lives in Japan.
That point is fair, but this is once again the job of the localizer, right? To try and communicate this nuance within whatever culture that you're trying to localize it to. Some things are going to be a hit, some things are going to be a miss, but you kind of have to, or else you completely lose that side of the character.
Since they'd be importing these 8 cards that nobody gave a about, the TCG department decided to have some fun and translate the cards in a Brooklyn accent. This isn't even unprecedented, as another Joey card, Alligator Sword, got this treatment years before these cards did. This is like if the fur hire joke didn't go over like a lead balloon. In fact, one of these cards is much more interesting with its flavor text, and to talk about it, I have to spoil a very small bit of a later entry. Abridged references in official material. For the flavor text of Anthrosaurus, they reference Yu-Gi-Oh! The Abridged series.
Hell
This
yeah.
man-like dinosaur got a high IQ, even though he's lacking in the strength department. Kinda like yous, if you had a high IQ. Yeah! That yeah is a reference to a verbal tick of Joey's from the abridged series, which is where a lot of the New York Joey jokes originate from. Do this again, but with
Awesome.
Zeus. How are you not prepared for mine yet? What is the most hated card in Yu-Gi-Oh! History?
Mystic
It's a
Mind.
question that largely depends on the player you ask, as one's experiences with the game shapes how they see the card pool and what opinions they have on it.
Yeah, very true. At the very beginning of my journey into learning how to play Yu-Gi-Oh!, Drytron was the enemy and VFD was the surrender button. I hated them. I'd much rather play against Tri Brigade than whatever the hell those two were doing. Once you learn more about the game, though, and you build your deck a little bit better, you can kind of get around the things that they did. But as a new player, yeah, it felt impossible to play against them.
A popular answer would be Max C.
Maxi is another great answer too, yeah. I believe it's never been legal in TCG, or maybe it was, but it's currently on the ban list. OCG, I think, still has it legal. It's kind of like one of those cards where it's just required, if it's legal, to have at least 3 in your deck, because special summoning is so prevalent in this game. But I also feel like it can be sort of questionable card design, considering that, you know, you want your players to do this and this is the only thing to prevent it. So now everybody is just specifically building their decks to play around it. And whatever deck, like if this is running rampant currently in the current meta, whatever deck doesn't have to deal with it or deals with it easily is usually going to be the one at the top. I guess the word there is polarizing. Same thing with Mystic Mind here, which I'm sure Bumbles is about to mention.
A card that often dumbs down games to having Max C, playing it, seeing if your opponent has the answer, and then winning on the spot if they don't. Some
Yeah.
people believe that Max C is used to keep combo decks in check. And these people are sweet, innocent, and stupid. Cards that appear in the meta for long stretches of time, like Crystron Halki Fibrax, lead to the game feeling like it never really advances past a certain point, and makes it hard to tell when certain formats even end. Heck, a genre of cards I personally hate are bottlenose cards. Cards that are so strong, they warp a deck around themselves to the
Yeah, always Ash the branded fusion.
point they have no game plan should that card fail to resolve.
Bad
I
card
believe
design.
Gladiator Beast would be a much more fun deck without Tamer Editor in it. And I know that can work, since Infernoble Knights got better once they stopped gunning to play Isolde every single game. However, one class of card sits above all the others in terms of hatred: Floodgates. Floodgates are, as
Well, floodgates basically tell your opponent you don't get to play. If you don't have the out, then just surrender now and go home. There's just no way around it. It's always going to be incredibly frustrating.
the name implies, a class of card meant to inhibit your opponent somehow. Floodgates stop some aspect of the game from occurring properly, and will really screw over a player if it's allowed to go off. Cards as simple as Swords of Revealing Light might be considered a floodgate, but if you want the really bad ones, you have cards like Skill Drain or
yep.
Anti-Spell Fragrance. Cards that just stop an entire superclass of card from even working. Jinzo doesn't count because he has Riz. Above all other floodgates, though, over Secret Village of the Spellcasters, over Inspector Border, over Dimension Shifter, there's Mystic Mine.
Thank goodness Mystic Mine wasn't legal in Master Duel. Sky Strikers would have been toxic. I mean, they kind of were where they were super strong, but Mystic Mine would have put them over the edge for me. And the Field Spell Village of the Spellcasters, or whatever the name was, I remember using that for my Witchcrafter deck. Like, I get it, it's kind of toxic, but like, Witchcrafters needed help. That plus some, was it Magician's right hand and left hand? There were some games where I got super lucky. I got a Strider and all of them in my hand, and my opponent, didn't really have any choice but to surrender. If they didn't have the out, of course.
Released in Darkness Neostorm in 2019, Mystic Mine's effect reads simple. The player with more monsters on the field can't activate monster effects or attack. And if you control the same amount of cards, this card is destroyed. This is one of the strongest floodgates of all time. A full field lockdown and attack stopper is a lot to put on one card, which should naturally be balanced by two facts. It can destroy itself, and it's a spell card, meaning other spells can destroy it. Both of these problems are rendered kind of moot. The first one, its self-destruction effect, didn't affect the player using it if mine was used reactively. If your opponent builds a huge board of monsters, all you gotta do is get them to waste their spell and trap negation, put down mine, and suddenly their whole field does nothing. Their huge dragons suddenly turn to stone since their effects don't work and they can't attack. And they have no way to reduce the amount of monsters they have to equal yours, since no matter how many times they link or synchro, they can never get down to 0. This also meant that the fact that Mystic Mine's effect was reciprocal, and you could potentially suffer the downsides, didn't matter, because you could always control how many monsters you had, whereas your opponent couldn't.
Yeah.
But they can just drop a mystical space typhoon and pop the mine, right? Well, the problem there is that Yu-Gi-Oh! Has kind of evolved away from that sort of interaction. Generic one-for-one cards like Mystical Space Typhoon or Cosmic Cyclone, these cards weren't played anymore since modern archetypes had in-archetype ways to do what they did. If Thunder Dragon wants to destroy spell cards, they'd make Titan or discard Thunderbird. If Orcus wanted to destroy them, they'd make Nightmare Phoenix. Cards that might work under other floodgates, but not mine.
There were just so many other ways to go about it that slotting in 3 MST just didn't really feel very, beneficial. You'd rather have the 3 spots for maybe more starters or other combo pieces. But now it makes me think of the MST archetype that got announced. Well, I don't know if it's out yet, but you guys did tell me about it in the comments. I wonder how they'd fare against this. Maybe they do pretty well.
You could play spell card outs like Harpy's Feather Duster and Cosmic Cyclone.
Always good to have as a one-of.
But what else in Mine's formats were you preparing for with those cards? Not a lot of other heavy spell and trap decks were popular at the same time, except maybe Salamangrate? But even then, those options pretty much just beat Mine. They did beat Mine really well, like Into the Dirt well, but if you played those cards, you risked not having the answer to a much more common problem. This became the pattern Mystic Mine would inhabit for a long time. If you prepare for it, Mystic Mine is like a mosquito. If you don't, Mystic Mine is like a mosquito with malaria. We haven't really talked about how Mystic Mine does win the game, because it really doesn't do much. At the start, it was based around burn cards, though it eventually evolved into a deck-out strategy, or even using cards like Final Countdown to just sit there and wait for a win in 20 turns. This was a particular favorite of the most famous Mystic Mine pilot of all time, Jeff Leonard. Jeff Leonard's decision to have a kid nearly killed Yu-Gi-Oh! See, Jeff got into the game so that him and his son would have something to bond over.
Oh boy.
Jeff hates combo decks. If he can, he'll do anything he can to play Stun or some variant of it. So Mystic Mine became his ace card. He would play it in addition to alt-win cards in order to win games with as little effort as he could realistically put forward. Now, this kicks ass. Jeff is one of the most beloved players in the game's history for being the nice dad who shows up and stuns you to hell. Anything mean I have to say about stun players, like their habit of sucking scum, does not apply to Jeff. He's the man. Luckily, the next format didn't really allow for mine, with the 2 best decks of...
Okay, I suppose in that context, it's pretty cool that you get to play Yu-Gi-Oh! Without really having to put all that much effort into learning all the combo decks and all the different routing. And you still get to enjoy the game, in a way. Stun is still pretty annoying, but maybe you can forgive that. Because, well, it's not really the player's fault for playing it, it's the fact that it's in the game in the first place, and that it is a valid strategy to use.
Adamancipator and Eldritch both having in-archetype ways to demolish mine. For a few years, it slinked back into the shadows, stealing wins every once in a while, and casually reminding people that they hated the shit out of this unfun card. 2022, though, was when Mystic Mine was back. The format consisted of multiple monster-heavy decks in the form of Branded, Sword Soul, Dragon Link, Fluanderees, and alongside Sky Strikers, which had recently seen the return of some of their best cards, Mystic Mine had a home and proceeded to wreck shop. Mystic Mine secured win after win until eventually it was just in every deck. If your deck could play Mine, it played
Might as well.
Mine. By YCS Rio, Mystic Mine won without even playing a monster card in their deck.
Okay, now that's just really sad. Why did we make this card in the first place? This was a massive mistake. Put that on the ban list now. We don't want our entire game to revolve around one card. At least that should be the thought process. I don't know if it happened.
It was all just burn cards, and to make sure the opponent couldn't have no monsters to destroy the mine, winner João Paulo included Ojama Duo and Trio,
to give them
tokens
monsters
onto his opponent so they couldn't play. From there, the firestorm to ban Mine was getting hotter than ever. It was a full-blown campaign, Mystic Mine trending on Twitter for days as people wanted to see this terrible card gone. That's when the man who innovated Striker Mine himself, prolific pro player Jesse Cotton, stepped in and dropped the infamous tweet. Okay guys, but with all due respect, how are you not prepared for Mine yet? He was correct. All that was needed to stop Mine was playing the outs.
Feather Duster, MST.
But it didn't stop this tweet from becoming a huge meme in the community. By the time of Tier 0, Mine had stopped seeing as much play due to Tier absolutely shitting on it. But that didn't mean some Tier builds wouldn't use it themselves. Finally, after 4 years of tormenting the player base, Mystic Mine was banned, and
thank goodness,
with any luck,
it is gone.
will never return. What made Mine such an unfun card to play against is that the gameplay it created sucks, flat out. The card
Yeah, there is just no engagement between you and the opponent. That inherently with floodgates, that's how it's going to be. At least some of the other floodgates are, well, now thinking about it, like they can be on the level of Mystic Mine. It's just that the game right now, I feel like, is mostly balanced around monsters and monsters having effects and being able to attack. If the game was mostly just about the spell cards and what they did, then other floodgates that prohibited you from using spells immediately would probably be on the same level as Mystic Mine.
Created games that are at best go fish, asking your opponent if they have Cosmic Cyclone yet. At its worst, you'd be better off in a staring contest for all the effort you were putting forward. It's only challenged by Self-Destruct button as Yu-Gi-Oh's most toxic card, and may we never see anything like it again.
Wait, is it Self-Destruct button? I could go back and read the text. I'm pretty sure that, now I'm thinking about it. I won't name any names here, but someone in the members Discord does play one of Self-Destruct button, just in case. If they're losing, they're gonna make sure nobody wins. And you know what? Fair. If it's in the game, might as well use it.
Yu-Gi-Oh! Was supposed to be a horror manga.
Really? Thinking back on Season 0, that kind of makes sense in the sense of horror with, like, you know, torturing the victims. Well, not the victims, the perpetrators. The people who deserved punishment.
The original run of Yu-Gi-Oh's sources of inspiration are as varied as they are completely f***ing disparate. You had the obvious ones like gaming, Egyptian history, and American pop culture, but then you start looking deeper and find stuff like Yugi's clothes being inspired by bondage. No, seriously,
what?
Kazuki Takahashi cites a source of inspiration for Yu-Gi.
Oh, Edward Scissorhands? Definitely unusual. Yeah, definitely an unusual inspiration for Yu-Gi-Oh! Huh.
Yugi's design as Edward Scissorhands, and after watching the movie, decided that instead of giving Yugi basic casual wear like a t-shirt, that he'd instead give him leather clothing. This was all a setup to try to get little Kuribo to make the song Leather Pants. The idea to make the hard light hologram projections for the monsters in Duelist Kingdom forward is specifically based on the hollow chess set scene from Star Wars, as Takahashi saw it as an interesting and cool way to let non-occult characters project their cards.
That was
as
cool.
should be obvious from reading Season 0 material as well, horror was a huge influence on Yu-Gi-Oh! In its early phases. Many of the punishment game's outcomes dip into body horror, like having items emerge from under people's skin, Tetsuo the Iron Man style, or having them be attacked by monsters and burst into flames. Anytime Takahashi got to draw a really grotesque monster, you got a sense for how his style mixed both American and Japanese sensibilities. Both an absurd amount of detail, with jagged and exaggerated angles, that gave everything a dangerous feeling. It's an aspect of his work that is really on display in the early parts of Yu-Gi-Oh!
Never really thought of it in that way, but yeah, I do recall remarking on the body horror aspect of it, back when we had learned initially about Season 0 and how that was pretty cool. But I guess it's just because, I'm a fan of horror. And once you see a bunch of it, you don't really consider that kind of stuff or immediately clock that, yeah, that's right, that is horror. Or the art style itself, as Bumbles is talking about right now, which really does evoke that sort of horror element that you wouldn't normally see in stuff like this, or you wouldn't think you would see in stuff like this. Maybe without realizing it, that might be why I like Yu-Gi-Oh! Card art so much. Or, well, maybe not just the card art. There are particular archetypes that I'm really into, but more so the general art style of the series itself, giving some horror vibes, could very much play into why I enjoy the series. Pretty casually, but I still enjoy it.
There are also the more overt references, like the Murder Park of Death Tea, and Chopman being a basic copy of Leatherface from the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Even when the series transitioned into more card game stuff, there was always an element of horror, like Bandit Keith's accidental suicide when Pegasus transformed his hand into a gun. With so much grisly imagery, it's unsurprising to find out the series was originally supposed to lean much more into it. In an interview for a volume release of Yu-Gi-Oh!, Kazuki Takahashi talked about the original plans for the series, and disclosed it was meant to be much closer to something like Death Note than what we got. Far more steeped in horror and mystery, rather than just card games. We even got to see a sketch of the original version of Yugi from this early version of the story. His design is a lot
It's like a demonic child. Go around and punishing sinners. So yeah, I see what he means by more closer to Death Note. The idea is there, we're just doing it in a different way.
Closer to Bones than the Yugi we know. It's interesting to think about how things could have gone if Takahashi saw his original vision through. With the illustrations we have, I'd have loved to have seen what a full-blown horror manga would have looked like from him.
Definitely. A spinoff would be appreciated.
Kazuki Takahashi's favorite cards. A parent isn't supposed to play favorites, but with over 10,000 children, I think he's allowed to give a few preferential treatment. In the author's note from another Yu-Gi-Oh! Volume release in 2002, Kazuki Takahashi actually gave a top 10 of his favorite monsters from the series up to that point. In order, number 10 is Gaia the Fierce Knight, which he calls a pain to draw. Number 9 was Time Wizard, which he admits to treating more like a spell card than a monster. Number 8 was Exodia for being based on the myth of Osiris from Egyptian mythology. Number 7 was Dark Magician Girl, wonder why. Number 6 was Buster Blader, because he has taste, and Buster Blader is cool as hell. Number 5 was... We'll save number 5 actually. Number 4 is Red Eyes, which he describes
I didn't clock number 5 in the
cool.
list there earlier.
Number 3 was Kuribo, with his description asking what was up with that shifty look in his eyes. Wait, you don't know? Number 2 and 1 were the Dark Magician and Blue Eyes White Dragon, because even the creator acknowledged that Blue Eyes is cooler than Dark Magician. And that number 5 entry? I saved it for last because it seriously floored me when I heard his 5th favorite card was Panther Warrior. Yeah, the Joey card that needs a tribute to attack, that's his 5th favorite. He says it's because of the American comics influence, which I guess is from Conan or maybe Thundercats? Far be it from me to judge the man on his own work, but...
I guess?
Really, Panther Warrior?
Hey, you like what you like.
Tree-bound Hound.
What the hell is that? Is Bumbles okay? Imagine pulling up with a card like that when you read the effect text. You're like, seriously? I don't know what it is about it, because there was a lot of other really cool stuff that we learned about in this video. The thing that still sticks with me is the fact that people sold like spreadsheets for how to play a deck. Like, really? Really? Maybe it was just a different time and a different era that I wasn't here for. But anyways, dudes, that's gonna do it for today's video. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me. Hope you guys enjoyed your time here and hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. I will catch you guys in the next one. Later, dudes.